Hello and welcome to the second video in this series writing simple Flappy Robin for the iPhone and iPad using Cocos2d for iPhone. So last video then we had our application. You can recognise, I'm sure, the code here. Everything's still in the same state from where we left off, having just created the new project and had a little walk through some of the pre-created code and the little app that is made for you by the Cocos2d framework. Before we get started with writing the game, however, there's one critical thing that you need to understand, and that is retina and non-retina, and also iPhone and iPad in some ways, and that deals with the graphics. We want to use normal definition, and we also want to use high definition graphics. Now, if you followed the Android series, you'll know that there were a couple of videos in the middle of that series where we had to sort of stop the development of the game and actually look at how we would deal with multiple resolutions and aspect ratios on Android, because it's a bit of a pain. Now, the good thing about the iPhone and the iPad is the retina and non-retina are a fixed resolution. There aren't many aspect ratios available. There's the iPhone aspect ratio, the iPad aspect ratio, and then the iPhone 5 aspect ratio. So you've only got three to deal with. So we're going to deal with things slightly differently and not do it in the so-called Android way. The other reason for that is that the way Cocos2d works is it gives you the screen size in points. And what I want to do now in this video is just put a couple of sprites on the screen to demonstrate how we go about using high definition, normal definition graphics with non-retina and retina displays, and how Cocos2d presents the display in points for us. It might sound a little bit complicated, but it's actually very easy. So in the the intro scene.m, I'm just scrolling down here to the bottom of the init function, and we're just going to add some code at the bottom here so that we can have a look at some of the current settings for the application as it runs. So what I want to do is I want to make a CG size, which is simply a structure with a width and a height, and I'll just call it pixels, and we're going to get the size of the view, so the coordinates that we'll be working with in X and Y, to have a look at what they are. So if I take the CC director, shared director, I can then get the view size, I think it's called, yes, the view size, like so, and that'll give us the size of our view. Using something called CC log, we can then log anything we want to the console, and here I just want to log this view size. So I'm just going to say view size, like so, and then I'm going to put percentage at, which says it's a string, and that's because the good thing about Objective-C, it already comes with some good macros like this, or functions inside NSString, which allow us to take various things in, like a range, a point, rectangle, size in our case, so that we can actually print that as a string without having to put lots of floats and things in, which takes up too much time typing. So this now, when we run the application, will give it in the console our size. And the other thing I want to give is the content scale factor as well. So I'm going to leave view size and scale factor. And that's the scale factor of, well, surprisingly, the content. I'm going to put 0.1f, so we have one decimal place here. And that is 2 if we have a retina display, because everything is packed in at 2 pixels per point on the screen. And to get this content scale factor, you simply need to do the CC director, which contains everything we need, the shared director, the singleton, and then just the content scale factor. And that'll give us these values. So I thought it might be interesting now just to run the application and have a look at what output we get from the console with these two things so we can understand what's going on. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a normal iPhone, bog standard, non-retina, and just run. So this will be a normal iPhone 4, not 4S, which is fairly old now anyway. And the app's starting up in the simulator. I'll just drag it across, and now down the bottom in the console you can see it says the view size is 480 by 320, which it also is in pixels, and the scale factor is 1. So per point on the screen for Cocos2d's working, we have 1 pixel. All well and good. Now let's change this to a retina and run it again and see what we have. So the application's starting, and now down in the bottom of the console you can see the surface size is 960 by 640, it's retina, but you can see here the view size for Cocos2d iPhone is still 480 by 320, and we've got a scale factor now of 2, so we're packing 2 pixels in for every point on the screen. And that's an important thing to know, because we want to be able to use, when we have retina, high definition graphics, and when we don't have retina, low definition graphics. And Cocos2d also, if we don't have high definition graphics, we want to be able to blow up effectively twice as big, because the scale factor is 2.0 on retina, our normal definition graphics. So how do we deal with this? Well, it's actually quite simple, and I've got some example graphics for this video, and then we'll start with the game proper in the next video. I've got the Robin itself here with 3 different files, and we're going to use these for demonstration. The Robin original is the original Robin, which is 32 by 25. Then we've got the HD Robin, which is 65 by 50. And then I've got a Robin Dash HD, which is 65 by 50. And you'll understand why I've got the Dash HD in a minute. I'll explain it. So what I'm going to do now then is I'm going to add the Robin HD and the Robin original to our project, like so. Just drag and drop, take that out the way, and I'm going to copy the items into the destination groups folder. And now what I'm going to do is make some sprites from these and add them to our layer. And to do that, we'll just make a CC sprite, and I'm going to call it Robin1 with full imagination, and then just CC sprite, and then you can say sprite with image named, and then ns string. And here I'm just going to take Robin orig, like so, .png. Now we want to add this Robin obviously onto the screen, so we need to set its position. Now with the older versions of Cocos2d, you would say if you wanted it in the middle, take the content size, width divided by 2 and height divided by 2 for x and y. But there's a different way of doing things. You can already see up here, you can do these a different way by using a normalized position with version 3 of Cocos2d. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to paste the Robin 1 in here. Normalize essentially means we have a scale of 0 to 1 from left to right for the x and bottom to top for the y. So we'll set this Robin then, the first Robin, let's set this one at 0.7, so the right hand side of the screen over to the right, and we also want it 0.7 up, so it's at least above the start button. And then we want to add it as a child to our scene, so we actually see it then appearing. So I'll just copy and paste that here. And now what I want to do is I want to add 2 more Robins that are exactly the same, using exactly the same file, because we're going to do a little bit of playing around just to show you how things work. So it's exactly the same code here, except actually I'll put a 0.3f here, a 0.5f here, and a 0.7f here, so they're going from left to right. So if I just run the application now on the retina display, we can have a look at what we get. And we get our 3 fuzzy looking Robins in this state. Slightly fuzzy because we're on retina display and we're using our lowest resolution normal definition Robin. Okay, now with Robin HD, you remember, we've actually got one which is the high definition, so twice as many pixels as the original. Now if on the right hand side I change this to add in our Robin HD instead and run the application, what we get is a Robin that's actually twice as big. And that's not what we need. And the thing is, we haven't told Cocos2d that this is actually a high-def graphic, and we wanted effectively to have, per point on the screen, twice as many pixels. We've simply told it it's an image, and Cocos2d has assumed, because we haven't told it it's high definition, that it's a low-definition image, and therefore has scaled it appropriately for the screen. And this is unfortunately obviously not what we want. We want a nice sharp Robin. Well, the way you do this is very easy. You simply have to add a suffix of -hd onto the end of the name of your PNG. So this Robin -hd I've got here is actually a high definition, but rather than do the HD with a -hd here, I want to have all 3 on at once. So what I'm going to do now is drag and drop this Robin -hd into the resources like so, and copy. And this is exactly the file. So this file is exactly the same as this one. But what we're going to do then is the right hand side the left hand side, not the left hand, no, let's do it the middle. The middle, we're going to use our HD file, and the way you do that is simply to name your sprite or whatever your image you're including without the -hd. The -hd is something that the framework looks for to say, is it or is it not a high definition graphic, and if there's a -HD, if it finds a Robin -HD in the resources, it'll say, we need to use this image and then condense it down. So this is what will happen here. So if I just run the application now, we should end up with a blurry Robin, which we have, a same size high definition, much clearer Robin, and still our Robin that's twice as big. And what we could do actually is, if we now rename this with a -HD, do I have a rename option? Maybe if I just click, yes, and put a -HD on the end, and now run the application again. I'm not sure whether it'll refresh the resources. Indeed, we end up now with the Robin back down and scaled to high definition. So it's a little bit of long-winded explanation here, but it's a very important thing to get your head around when you start programming, even when you're using not using the Cocos2d framework, but using UIKit or something like that. It's very important when you start making games to make sure you understand how the resolutions work. And for Cocos2d 4, there's also, obviously, we have graphics for the iPad as well. And to do that, I won't show it here because it's exactly the same concept, but instead of having a -HD, you have a -iPad for normal iPad resolution, and then -iPad HD for high definition iPad resolution. But we'll deal with those later on. So that's just a quick explanation of why and why we'll have different types of graphics, and in the next video then we can actually get around with changing some of the code in here and starting out with the Flappy Robin application itself. So I hope that's made some sense about how images are scaled and put on the screen correctly in high and normal definition. If you have any questions about that, then please put a question in the comments section. Otherwise, see you in the next video, and thank you very much for watching.